Hey everyone, Gill Gross here post-match. Daniil Medvedev versus Alexander Zverev, ATP Finals 2023 round robin. If you're not here for spoilers, click off the video in 3, 2, 1. Daniil Medvedev beats Zverev for the 5th time this year. Head-to-head finishes 5-1. Boy, they've played a lot. And this one was, since they haven't played in a slam, perhaps their most important meeting. Medvedev books his spot in the semifinals in Turin. He has bounced back, as I thought he would, from last year's 0-3 performance in the round robin. And this one he wins 7-6, 6-4. Folks, sometimes things are very simple in this game. I try to get as technical and, look at the details as much as possible. I try to achieve some nuance in analysis. Sometimes it's very simple. This was one of those times where the nerve management completely decided the match. I mean, this was a situation, and we knew it coming into Turin, and just the conditions that when you have good servers, they serve well. It's going to be hard to break. We're going to get tie breaks, and the margins are going to be tight. Well, Medvedev served at 73%. Zverev served at 75%. Both of them have pretty shaky second serves. And I would say even on the second serve, they, especially Zverev, performed at a pretty high level. So the serving was at a point where there weren't going to be a lot of opportunities in this match. First set goes to a tiebreak. And look, we can see in big moments what happened here. Zverev just took a dive in his ability to execute when things got tight. Context. Zverev hit his forehand great in the first set. In my opinion, forehand was awesome. Entire first set, especially after the first couple games. Once he broke back in the first set and really started to let loose on his ground strokes, both wings. He gets to set point at 6-5. He makes a good first serve, actually a really good first serve. Credit to Medvedev for just covering the tee because he knows that it's Sasha's favorite serve. So Daniil gets the return back in play, but I would describe the incoming ball as like a coach's feed. If I were to feed Zverev a forehand, not like super short, not a sitter, but feed him a forehand at the baseline, that was about the ball coming into Zverev's forehand. And Zverev doesn't get the center of the racket on it and probably decelerates a little bit, just doesn't come through the ball right. And it comes off his racket at 65 miles per hour, if I were to guess. Hits the middle of the net. It's the ugliest forehand, really, you'll see in a spot like that after he hit his forehand great the whole set. And then at 7-all, he missed another forehand, which he just kind of guided. It was a pretty simple one. Probably could have drilled it. Instead, it looked like he just tried to loop it cross court and achieve some width, and it's kind of flew wide on him. So he misses 2 forehands there, and that pretty much cost him the set. Although the tiebreak should not have been that close to begin with. As Zverev got off to a good start, it was 4-1. He had an easy high backhand volley. It should have been a put away. And he flubbed that volley. So when they changed ends, it was 4-2 in the breaker. It should have been 5-1 Zverev, double mini break. Probably never gets to that point where it's so tight. So you just have those crucial errors by Zverev in the end there. In the second set, Zverev had a break point at 30-40, 4-all. Would have served for the second set. He misses a backhand cross-court trade. It's just a shocker for Zverev. It's his favorite shot. It's as reliable a backhand as there is, pretty much. Missed it. Forehand unforced error on the next point. Medvedev holds for 5-4. First point of the next game. Zverev has a sitter overhead that he just kind of spikes straight down into the court. And if you do that and the ball doesn't end up in the seats, you're in trouble. This ball didn't end up in the front row. Instead, it ended up with Medvedev hitting a baseline overhead a la Federer. And Nadal's actually had some good ones in his career as well. A baseline overhead right back. You can say Medvedev got a little lucky. with how that overhead played out because, I don't know, it might have been a little bit of a mishit. Turned into a nice little almost lob over Zverev's left shoulder. So he had to hit another kind of backhand overhead, which did he miss the backhand overhead, or did it just set up an easy? Yeah, no, he missed it. Yeah, he missed the high backhand volley / backhand overhead. All right, he should not have lost that point. And you just felt, okay, Zverev has missed so many opportunities here. His head is probably exploding. Like, there's no way that he's calm on the inside, given how the last 4 points have played out. What do you know? Forehand down the line, wide, unforced error on the next point. Did get it to 30-all. Did make a first serve at 30-all. Had himself a backhand to rip inside the court, but kind of pulled off the court. So he's got a chance here to hit a backhand approach shot. It's a bit of an awkward position, but imagine this. He's kind of in the doubles alley and inside the baseline, and he hits a backhand cross-court approach, and he's completely off the court. So if you're off the court and you hit a cross-court approach shot, it better be a winner. And if it's not a winner, you better hope that you're not playing someone who redirects their backhand down the line well, because you just know that you're not going to be able to get over there to cover the line. So, I mean, what coaches often say and instruct is when you hit an approach shot, when in doubt, keep the ball in front of you. So if you go down the line on that approach shot, you're able to get in position much easier. You don't have to cover as much ground to get in position because you're already obviously going to have the line covered, and it's just kind of getting over for the cross court. There's always more time to cover the cross court. So yeah, you if you keep the ball in front of you from that position, you're not going to leave as much open court. When you go cross court, you're not going to be able to get to that line. So that's what happened at 30-all. On match point, he mishits a +1 forehand. Another pretty bad miss. So went off the rails there, game, set, match. And it was crazy to see because Zverev in this match at his best was the more dangerous player off of both wings. He was more dynamic coming forward. He was just as steady. He was serving great. And on the scoreboard, that kind of materialized in feeling like, I mean, Zverev was creating more scoreboard pressure than Medvedev throughout most of this match. And it felt like he was knocking on the door more often. There were more games where you went, 30-all here, okay. Or more like, all right, love 15. Like Zverev has something going here, maybe on a return game. Medvedev had fewer of those moments, but it was really just a matter of who took those moments and capitalized. And that was Medvedev because of the nerve management being much better on his side. All right. Other than that, other than the pressure moments where Zverev made mistakes, one thing that the biggest thing that really stood out to me about Medvedev's performance that I was appreciating was just how often he makes you hit a volley. We've talked much more about how Medvedev makes you play even when you make your first serve, that he gets returns in play. And the idea is, if you're Daniil Medvedev and if you're in his frame of mind, the idea is I cover the court great, I defend great, so let's allow that to work its magic by making the return, and I'll at least force my opponent to come up with something really good to finish through my defense. It's kind of the mindset. And, Medvedev just banks on the fact that you're not going to be able to execute over and over and over again if he's making returns in play. But I think there's a similar mindset for Daniil when he hits passing shots, because I rarely see him go for broke or go for the all-out winner. And I so often see him just trust that two-shot pass. Not that he's always just going for the dipper down the middle, although he does it a lot. But even when, whenever he's hitting his passing shots, I feel like there's a lot of built-in margin there. Oftentimes, Zverev clearly early on, and I think he needs to do this in this matchup. Like, this is his advantage. When he beats Medvedev, ultimately it's that maybe he's a little bit more, he's able to do more damage with his forehand, one, and two, he's coming forward and finishing. So he's just creating a much better offensive package than what Medvedev is able to do. That's when he's getting the better of Daniil. So he's coming forward a ton in this first set. He's in 22 times. And he wins 14 of 22 for 64%. But he had to earn everything. And even, by the way, on the set point, which was not one that I mentioned, Zverev hits a serve. He hits a backhand down the line approach. And you just know Medvedev is going to give Zverev a difficult volley. Not that he's going to crush a winner on the passing shot. It doesn't feel like he's going for that, which is the key here. It's kind of the point I'm trying to make. It's a forehand pass that would have landed, like 2 feet inside, maybe a foot and a half inside the sideline, but it just makes Zverev hit a stretch volley. Because and maybe this gets Medvedev into trouble against like a Nick Kyrgios, who's an awesome volleyer. But against Zverev, what are you dealing with here? You're dealing with just an average volleyer. That's what he is. I don't want to call him bad. He's not. But I also can't call him good. And sometimes we get too sucked into having to choose good or bad. And sometimes it's just like, yeah, he's an average volleyer. So I just think Medvedev leaves no meat on the bone and is like, okay, if you're not the greatest volleyer in the world, well, we're going to test this because every time you come forward, you're going to have to hit a volley. You're not going to be let off the hook. Medvedev scared Zverev off the net because in the second set, he stopped coming in. Came in at 9 times in the second set. And by the way, he was only 4 for 9. So his efficiency dipped down to 44%. For the match, it ends up being somewhere around 50% in net points won, which in my opinion is really bad. Now, there are some coaches, let's see, 58%, 18 for 31. There are some people who will tell you that's not that bad because it's above 50%. In my opinion, when you come forward and you're not retrieving a drop shot in any other scenario, you should be around 75% because you're in an offensive position if you're coming forward. So that's my philosophy on it. I don't agree that anything over 50 is good. Because it's a slice of points that I think you should be winning more than half the time because you're in attack. I think the other hole Medvedev found, it was just a slight thing, it was kind of subtle, but the other hole Medvedev found in Zverev's game was just the forehand return. Now, second screen is down. I can't tell you how often Medvedev hit his first serve at the Zverev forehand return, so you just have to trust me that he did that a lot, and he did that on most of the big points. And Zverev was never chipping. And I just thought he missed a lot of makeable forehand first serve returns. A lot of instances where I don't think Medvedev hit a great spot, and he still got that cheap point, still got the free point. Zverev in this dynamic, in this serve return dynamic, Zverev hit more aces, 9-4. By the way, 9 aces in 2 sets against Medvedev, that's good. He hit 0 aces in Beijing, none. But Medvedev, despite getting out-aced by more than half, Medvedev hit more unreturned serves, 22-18. What that tells you, really, and this would be in line with just what I observed, Zverev served probably slightly better than Medvedev, but Medvedev's return was much better than Zverev's return, especially because Sasha was just leaking on the forehand first serve return a bit. Leaking some unreturnables that should have gone back in play. And again, back to Tennis Insights, it had Medvedev's return as a 9.2 and Zverev's return as a 7.0. And the average is 6.6. Tennis Insights did have a higher rating on Zverev's serve than Medvedev's serve. So Zverev was the better server, but the gap was not as wide. There was a wider gap in the return levels in favor of Medvedev. Other than that, a couple of other little things. Medvedev is doing a good job of going after his forehand behind his serve. To me, the forehand aggression for Medvedev in this tournament, he's up a couple notches. I think just recognizing what the conditions are, he's trying to attack more. He knows that the court is not going to reward defense as much as it will offense. And Daniil has made the adjustment, so props for him on that. Main positive for Zverev, other than playing really good tennis until he needed it, is the second serve. As I mentioned for a moment there at the start, looks great. It's coming off real confident. So I wouldn't say, Zverev still has a chance to get into the semifinal. It doesn't look like the second serve is going to be an issue here because he's hitting it well. But you never know, because as we learned in this match, nerves can change a lot of what we're looking at with Alexander Zverev. And this was a classic example of that. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.